Eskom is hopeful that the latest wage offer will bring an end to the stalemate with the unions. Trade Union Solidarity has already accepted the latest wage offer of a 7.5% increase for this year and 7% for the 2 years thereafter. NUMSA's General Secretary, Irvin joins us now. Good evening, sir. Thanks very much for coming through. Now, you were supposed to sign off on an agreement today, have you?
Well, I'm afraid it's so sad that we're communicating bad news, that we reached a deadlock this afternoon for the whole day. I mean, we would have negotiated for the whole day. And I must communicate that on all issues, we have secured an agreement. There's one sticky issue where Eskom clandestine agenda has been exposed. You would appreciate that this has been a marathon, protracted negotiations that we have embarked upon. And now we've reached an agreement. And when we're saying to Eskom, we're ready to sign, we should sign and settle, they're very firm on one issue, that they want to discipline our members who would have embarked on demonstrations during this particular period. You would appreciate that somewhere in June, these demonstrations took place. The minister said we should go back to square one. And when they came back and we normalized the situation, workers in the recent past would have demonstrated. They're now saying they want to, despite the fact that initially they would have put a waiver on disciplining workers, this time around, they want to discipline workers. We're very clear from where we're sitting that there is an agenda here. Eskom see this as an opportunity to get rid of our members. So we got an option to, and workers got an option to take 10,000 bonus to settle on wages, but they will not enjoy that 10,000. They will not enjoy that wages because many of them are basically targeted for dismissal by Eskom. From where we're sitting, as unions, in particular NUMSA and Solidarity, NUM and NUMSA and NUM, we're very firm that we're not willing to trade with the job security of our members. We're not saying if a worker have misconducted himself in ways that are beyond approach and which are not acceptable, we're saying we should sit down with Eskom and agree up front on a form of a sanction if there is a need for do that. But what we're not prepared to do is to give Eskom a blanket check to implement what is their agenda to basically hive off workers. Because we know when they connected IPPs, out of their own studies, the result was that 92,000 workers, in particular in Mpumalanga, would have to lose their jobs. And we think that they have an opportunity now to implement that strategy. So we refuse to sign this afternoon until they make a commitment that they will not dismiss workers. And we very fair. We're saying we're calling a meeting we basically made a call of a meeting between the board and the Minister of Public Enterprise to deal with this particular impulse, as we will not take responsibility beyond this point, because if they are going to move ahead unilaterally and be opportunistic to get rid of workers, we will be left with no option. Our backs are against the wall, and injury to one will be an injury to all.
Did they furnish you with any reasons as to why they feel so strongly that they need to put some of these workers through a disciplinary process?
Clearly, during the demonstrations, from where we're sitting, we think that they have been not just waiting on the side, they've been targeting workers, they've got the list of people that they want to deal with, and they think that we will sign the wages and say that's okay, and then they go for workers unilaterally. And we know that they've got an agenda to hive off workers, which they have been refuting. We think that their true colors now are up in the open.
But they haven't given you reasons why they feel so strongly that some of these workers have to go through a disciplinary process.
Well, they say, look, discipline is not for negotiations. And I mean, Eskom is not the first company which had faced industrial action. We have been, in the unions, we have been negotiating in different plans. We never condone any misconduct, but the employer will be able to sit down when we settle negotiations to ensure that it's not just to settle wages, but also you ensure that there's stability. We're saying to them we need a commitment that they will work with us on this. They completely refuse. They affirm that they are going to discipline workers, and we affirm that touch one, you touch all, because we cannot risk the lives of our members with them, especially when we know that there is an agenda. And I think this spells out that we've got a serious leadership crisis. The new person who runs Eskom now, I'm afraid, I mean, we have not felt his leadership in these negotiations. We almost deal with somebody who's an administrator who really lead by book, that if this has happened, this is what has happened. I mean, we would sit in a couple of companies. We will impose sanctions together with management if it means it's about bringing stability to correct workers, because disciplinary measures in themselves are supposed to be corrective measures rather than to be punitive to get rid of workers.
Now, you said earlier that you want to meet with the board. Have you already indicated to the Eskom board that you want this meeting? And do you know what's going to happen next?
The meeting is not confirmed. As you would know, that the Minister for Public Enterprise, Minister Pravin Gordhan, he had somebody in the name of Gavin Hartford who was directly involved. Eskom management was very hostile to agree to this meeting because I think they see an opportunity for them to basically attack workers through their unilateralism. But finally, we have left the meeting now, which has been facilitated by CCMA, with a commitment that Gavin is basically going to try and facilitate such a meeting. As things stand, there's no commitment. But we're saying, let's meet on Monday with the board, the minister, and see whether we can find one another, because beyond this point, we'll be left with no option but to go and report to workers that Eskom have declared war to themselves, and now it's time for workers to stand together, because what's the point of celebrating 10,000, which was paid out of them having refused to pay bonus? And what's the point of thinking that you are going to get your wages when in fact you are in the hitting list, which is only Eskom alone that knows that it will use against particular individual workers? And we think that they stand a good chance of throwing trump-up charges. We have no reason to trust them at all.
Irvin, Jim, thank you very much for that update. He is the General Secretary of the National Union of Metal Workers of South Africa. Well, let's check.